All right, click the links to join the channel, become a member, check out the Patreon, subscribe, Star, Odyssey, Bit Chute, Gab, or Telegram. So basically what this boils down to is I saw this, and you have to see this also. A lot of this energy feels like in the back of their minds. I mean, I assume there's a political commissar, SGW, standing over them with a riding crop, smacking them every now and then if the B cups border on C cups, and tell them to stand their lane, examine their privilege, and something about the patriarchy. In their mind, this is owning the Chads by not selling to them. It's like that thing where somebody's working for some show, and they're trying to get you to sub to the monthly fee for HBO, and they're getting a fight with someone who mildly criticizes the show online, and the goal is to get you to pay for the streaming service $15 a month, and someone has some mild question about it, or some mild criticism, and one of the show writers gets in an argument with them, and it just makes them look like an idiot, and they have to lock down their account. They're like, "Yeah, I made that guy look foolish. He had to lock down his account. He was a Chad insult. Sent him scurrying back to the closet, whatever." Like, yeah, but the goal wasn't to win the fight, which everyone publicly saw. The goal was to get him and to convince other people to subscribe to your streaming service for $12 a month. You're in sales. You're selling subscriptions. You're not winning internet fights. And there's a whole bunch of people who don't understand the difference between when you're anonymous or you're on some personal account versus when you represent yourself and you're selling something as a show writer, and you represent the company, and you represent 100 other people that you work with. And it's like, you don't want to fight with people on the internet, because even if the person here's the thing with like a legitimate fight, even if the person is a jerk, like they're a troll, you look better just blocking them and moving on with your life without even responding to them than if you get down in the mud and get in a fight with them. Because then people look at you a little bit different. Like, yeah, you might have 90% of the people on your side, but then there's 10% that thought like, you kind of were a little tactless, a little classless in the way you handle it. And they're not going to be so cool with it. So it's a lose-lose situation, because the people who are already on your side are already on your side, so you can only kind of hurt yourself with that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of people who are in this Hollywood and comics who really don't seem to get that. And there should be people standing like a public relations person saying, yeah, really, like if you have conflict with somebody, avoid the conflict simply by blocking that person or muting them. You never have to actually engage in a firefight with somebody online, because other people see that and they don't like the negative energy. But it seems like there's not enough of some adult manager talking to these people and telling them what I just said. Like, this is our social media policy. We don't argue with people. If they say something untoward, we just mute them and move on with our life. You just don't have to have public fights with everybody when you represent, a huge company, but they do it anyway. Anyway, so what this is exactly what you imagined it to be. So what is this? DC launches a opposition to the Teen Titans Academy. So Arkham Academy. So I went back and I read the latest Teen Titan, which I guess hasn't been out of print in 3 months or something. And the comments in that section of it were, people were like, "Thank God this run is done. It's so horrible." And I looked through it, and there was a lot of dialogue boxes. Everything looked good. I mean, the art looked good. It looked professional, but there was just a lot of dialogue, and I didn't slog through it to find the SJW-isms. But so I scroll back to the first issue, and like in the first issue of the latest Teen Titans, it's you scroll through it and you see all this. Oh, hey, yeah, diversity. Yeah, that's fabulous. And then I kept turning pages until I found the blonde character, because then when you see the blonde character, like, oh, he's going to be either malicious and evil or incompetent and stupid. And as it turned out, like on page 3, well, he's incompetent and stupid. He's late to something, and he just kind of butts in. And of course I could find it if you want. You can hold on. Here you go. I think I don't know. It was a few pages into the comic where you see all here's the girl in the head covering. Can I get her in the image? I hope my thumbnails aren't too objectionable. Put me on a FBI watch list or anything. So you've got all the standard check mark for the purse puppy Mary Sue divisions, but then you see the blonde hair, blue eyed idiot roll in there and just act like like an idiot, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I've mentioned it actually a few times that they really have a fixation on this sort of thing. I know I mentioned this before, that when Zach was doing comics, this is, I don't know when he started, like 4, 5, 6 years ago. He was underselling like what was really going on, because he wanted to stay on YouTube as long as he could and, you know, sell his comics. I get that, but he was really downplaying a lot of the stuff that was happening. Then when you look at the stuff for yourself, you realize, oh, it's way worse than what he was talking about. Anyway, so this kind of cliche is a prime example. It's kind of why I made the video. I mean, like, everything about it is cliche. The only thing I can say is, like, you didn't give her camouflage army pants. That would have been like one step up. So everything, like, if you would imagine yourself drawing this, like, what would they have come up with? You probably would have drawn something very similar. Make everything as ugly as possible with no shape. Nothing is interesting. It's just kind of smooth blobs. And that, I mean, like, everyone's just kind of a few pounds overweight, even if they don't look fat, but they're just kind of soft looking. They just don't have the definition that you would expect to see in a comic book. It's not like everyone has to be, you know, shredded beyond belief like the standard comic books, but they've kind of gone in this opposite direction of, these kind of look like your neighbors. They look like your neighbors, basically, who are out for a jog. Like, yeah, they're okay. They're, you know, they're healthy. They're fine. They're not fat, but it's not really what you want to see in a comic. Women will be completely unappealing, just absolute A-cups, slightly chubby, and one of them will have the sides of her head shaved. And this is the one who's got the side of her head shaved. Now, I guess the people who draw comic books don't read them, because if you read the comics, and I haven't read as many as I used to, you'll see, go read Star Wars The High Republic. You'll see this a remarkable amount of time, where it's not 1982, where I think they think they're Pat Benatar or something, where they're stunning and I'm going to shave this. It's punk rock, guys. Yeah, but it's 2022. Perhaps you're not familiar with comics. This is like it's a checklist. Oh, okay, you've got combat boots, ripped camo pants, and you shave the side of her head. How many other characters? You know, I say the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy's the bad guy. I could make a list of these, like, thumbnails of, hey, Immortal Hulk #1. Hey, like every other comic book, even in the Star Wars High Republic I mentioned, the bad guy's, well, in that case, he's a blonde-haired, green-eyed kid who actually looks exactly like the other kid. I guess I had to switch it up a little bit. I'm not pulling this stuff out. I know people, if you were not familiar with comics, you'd hear me say this and think, this person is insane with this blonde fixation. Except, stop it, dog. I'm not making this up. You can clearly see this in comics all you want. Anyway, everything is just as unappealing as possible. They do that very well. Everyone is drawn as background people, not foreground superheroes who are supposed to jump off the page. These are superheroes, or in this case, villains. They're supposed to stand out. These look more like NPCs. But people who make comics, they actually hate the customers. You don't draw this if you like the customer. Tell me I'm lying there. Well, this is a guy, again, he looks like from 1979 punk rock band, and he's got a pussy hat on his head, because we're gender bending roles just like David Bowie. Yeah, you guys are just like David Bowie. Just, there's no difference between, I don't know, the soy boys and cat ladies who write this stuff and draw this stuff, and David Bowie. You guys are just as cool as he is, because you're fighting, you're raging against the machine, aren't you? When you're not turning in peaceful protesters to the FBI. It's weird how the left is just, it's completely. Oh, and you know, in the future, like, I don't know, 50 years from now, they're going to look back and go, no. We were against lockdowns the whole time. We were against all that kind of stuff the whole time. Yeah. That was no, the party switched. No. We were for libertarian and freedom. No, that was the left. No, it was the conservatives who were for that. The party switch. I swear to God, the party switch. I feel like you guys are lying to me, like you've been lying in the past. Yeah, these people hate you. And everyone, here's something a little bit weird about this, is that someone points out in the comics that they know this sucks, but they say, you know, it's an IP farm, it's designed for future movies, that they'll own the rights to these characters. The comics are only supposed to go a year or two if they're lucky. for if this, for this even to go a year, I would kind of wonder about that. I would wonder what the sales numbers are. But now because of digital and the Woo flu, it's like I don't think the sales numbers are back to paper so much. I mean, the whole thing is not what it used to be before the Woo flu, and it wasn't looking so great there. So fair point. I get that these are IP farms, but they don't have to be SJW stereotypes, and that's what these are. You're an artist. You didn't get to be an artist to draw this. I know you didn't. You're an artist. You can easily draw something beautiful. In fact, when you started drawing, you were probably drawing cool things. Uh, Beautiful people doing cool things. Oh, you mean like a comic book, right? Yeah, that's what they used to be like. But there's a whole lot of this kind of energy. Like I said, if it vaguely has boobs, I mean, this looks like the anatomy. Well, I mean, the legs are too long for anyone, but it looks like the anatomy of a biological woman, unless those pants are kind of an illusion. I don't know. If it has boobs, it usually means it's a man. This is the equivalent of communist architecture. It's ugly and it's simultaneously incompetent, and it's like poorly sourced materials, so it just crumbles and rots within a few years. It's kind of a Lotta in a field of, I was going to say Ferraris, but more like, so there's some graphic novels in Comicsgate that would be equivalent to Ferraris because they have more time to work on each individual page. Fair point. But like mainstream comics are still would be the equivalent of like a Hot Mustang, and these are, I mean, this is a Lotta that's is got one cylinder out, so you've got three cylinders and you're smoking oil like constantly. It just barely gets when you beep the horn. When those early Lottas, the headlights would dim because the electrical system, it was probably like a 6-volt. It was just such a everything was crap because it was it's a communist built car. It's gonna suck. The thing is, I know that these people can do better than this, but some SJW political commissar won't let them. And here's the weird thing. Even the SJWs in the Bleeding Cool comment section were saying that this looked like cancer because there's nothing visually appealing about their version of Safe Space and Snowflake. I don't remember if that was Marvel or not. So everything is trans now, of course, but it's hard for artists to draw because you're drawing anatomy. You're drawing either male or female skeletal structure and then muscle structure. Over that, the most you can do is, clothing and makeup, but you can't change the skeletal structure. Like, artists know that as well as physical anthropologists. You know the anatomy and the geometry and what it can do. It's like there's a massive difference between male and female anatomy. I mean, that's one of the first things that artists are working on, or artists or sculptors. You have to know the anatomy, or someone will point out like someone pointed out like Tim Doyle piece of art, and they say like the guy may be a total douchebag, but they liked a piece of his art. And then an artist came in and said, yeah, you got this girl sitting on a train, and he goes, you measure out her anatomy. She's sitting on the train, her legs are crossed. Because he's saying if you straighten her out and you measure her out, she's taller than the train. Like, the perspective and the anatomy is completely off. And it's like, we didn't see that. We just thought it looked cool, but the artist pointed it out. It's like, yeah, she's actually 8 feet tall. It's like, none of this makes sense. I guess that's more of a perspective shift, but you know what I'm saying. So drawing trans characters is kind of tough. So the artist is really confused. I mean, artists are terrified of drawing anyone good looking. Like the old days of like the 90s art up until kind of recently of, Spider Girl or, Spider Girl, whatever was that chick with that, she's bent over and her butt's up in the air. It was, it's over the top. It's kind of a cover kind of image. And I get that it's over the top, but it's like, that was what made comics fun. That kind of ridiculous stuff. Yeah, that's all over. To be fair, I don't even think you're going to see that in Comicsgate art anymore. It's just, it's kind of something from the 90s that came and went. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the 90s that was ridiculous. I mean, specifically, like when Comicsgate kind of first got off the ground, I went back and I looked at 90s Cyber Frog, and it was like that, kind of like gravity-defying double Ds. It was like DC and Marvel, but taken up a level. It was ridiculous. And like, I get that it's ridiculous, but you want to dial it back to somewhere, something that's still visually appealing, but not something like this, which, like, there's just, your eye passes right over this image. Your eye's not supposed to pass over the image. If they use laser trackers to track your eyes, and for like the CIA does it, or sales companies do it to study sales figures to see what picks up and what the eye is drawn to, it's like, if you saw this, you'd probably look away, because it's like, this person in the comic is going to be a pain in the ass and is going to lecture you on, I don't know, the patriarchy or something, but it's like, they're going to lecture you on the patriarchy in England and not, you know, in some Middle Eastern or African country. You know, it's just going to be annoying and obnoxious because it's, you know, it's drawn by an SJW or written by an SJW. So in these kind of comics, everything is just as hideously ugly as possible. If it looks like a short man, it's probably a biological woman. If it has tits, it's a man. But if it has B cups, wide hips, and is slightly chubby, it's probably a woman. Basically, everything they do in comics sucks, and it's never going to improve. Nobody's attractive, except sometimes they'll give the black dude a pass, but only for the purpose of him getting involved in an interracial relationship with a blonde, blue-eyed woman, because, you know, cultural Marxist has to ever march forward. And I only say that because you can go back and read the various... I think Captain Marvel went like 40... It's still going. It's ongoing. It's like 40 in the series, and they do that kind of stuff. And here, the funny thing about Captain Marvel, now that I mention it, is the first like 35 issues were, you know, B cups and really, really boring. And then the past like 5 issues, every now and then they started improving the art, like making the women look more like women. It was really weird just to see, like, wait, she just went up a cup size. Who made that decision? Like, both the women in the comics, they went from A cups to like C and D cups. Like, yes, I'm very fixated on yeah, most people want beautiful things, to look at beautiful things. It's like, don't let them tell you that you're not allowed to say, like, yeah, I want beautiful, aspirational, inspirational art, because you're not a fan. You're the customer. You're paying for this stuff. It's not free. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.